On this week's episode of I-501CU, the podcast for nonprofit board members, I'm going to talk about 5 observations I have from working with a high-performing board. Hey, I want to jump in real quick. Somebody asked me the other day, what does the Corley Company do? Well, we do 3 things for nonprofits. 1, we facilitate meetings, yes, like board retreats, where we discuss governance and strategy with all the members of the board. Number 2, advise CEOs and help them as they make decisions and implement actions to drive their mission. And then finally, we produce podcasts such as this one, but also for a number of nonprofits to help you get the word out, get your message out. So if you're interested in any of these services, please feel free to reach out to Michael at thecorleycompany.com. Now back to the podcast. This past weekend, at least as of this recording, I had the pleasure of working with a board of directors for a foundation that I've worked with for a number of years. And it was a pleasure and a joy to work with them. 1, they've become friends, but 2, the growth that they've experienced over the past number of years that I worked with them has just been absolutely tremendous. The retreat was outstanding, and it was outstanding for a number of reasons, and I wanted to share those with you, especially for those board chairs out there and CEOs that are working to maybe toward a retreat or even just working with the board in general. So let me share with you what I observed. First of all, it was very clear the board, each of the board members was aligned with the mission of the organization. There was no discrepancy. They knew exactly what they were trying to accomplish or the impact they wanted to make. Very aligned with the CEO on that. And so it just made for some wonderful conversation. Number 2, the board understands its role. Its role to govern, to offer strategic input, to make some of those broad strategic decisions, but to let the CEO and the staff figure out how to do those things. That was very apparent in our discussions. In fact, oftentimes if somebody started talking about an operational issue, another board member would go, hold on, we're the board. We don't get into operational issues. We focus on strategic oversight. Number 3, the CEO it was obvious the CEO in preparation for this retreat and some of the discussions we needed to have, the CEO had educated, had communicated with the board members over the past, I don't know how many months, maybe even for the past year, in order so that everybody has a common understanding of this topic or 2 topics that were going to be discussed at the retreat and felt comfortable discussing it without having to ask a lot of those typical education questions. Well, what do you mean by this? What does that mean? It was clear there had been a lot of education leading up to this retreat, which allowed for some really robust discussion throughout the 2 days. Speaking of discussion, this board, actually, this wasn't a consensus situation. There were some very meaty, intense but respectful discussion on the topics that I previously mentioned. But it was robust. It was good, and they made a decision coming out of it. And it wasn't just a yes board. It was, let's talk about this. Let's sort through this. And what that allowed for was the CEO and the leadership team that were present at the retreat to listen to any concerns the board members have or additional ideas board members have as they will go back to implement the decisions that were made. And then finally, number 5, it was clear that these folks just like to have fun. They enjoy their company. The 2 days, there was a lot of laughing, a lot of smiling. And now whether or not they like each other, my perception was they do. If they do, that's wonderful. If they don't, clearly they have a level of respect, and you saw and you could see the camaraderie throughout the 2 days. So it was just an absolutely, I walked out of that retreat and said, wow, this board really is firing on all cylinders. They've got a great leader in the CEO. They're aligned, and they're going to make some tremendous impact over the next 3 years. And they've made some really, really difficult but solid decisions emerging from those 2 days. So just as you work towards maybe a board retreat or as you're working on strategic planning, it's just important to make sure and work towards everybody being aligned. Everybody has the opportunity to contribute, offer input, have respectful discussions, and have some fun together. So there you go. As I record on this a few days before Memorial Day, hence the casual dress, and I hope everybody had a very fun and blessed Memorial Day, and I will 501 see you next week.